Oh, hello. Right. Hi. My name's Peter. I'm planning to do a series of YouTube videos which are going to help you how to program, how to code, how to make your own games. And the important part, the bit which I try and emphasise, is I'm looking to teach you how to actually program, because I think the best analogy that I could come up with is I feel you wouldn't watch a Rocky film without the fight at the end, and I feel like the coding that's the best bit. It's like, I don't know if there's anyone who's like, no, I just enjoy the drama, but don't worry about the fight, just skip that. No, it's like, why? What are you doing? Like the coding is the best part of making a game, in my opinion. Obviously, that is my opinion. That's partly because I don't actually know how to draw. I'm not like the best artist or anything. So my and on the subject of not being a very good artist, when it comes to actually drawing stuff, if you don't actually have too much skill in the artist department, Sprite is an amazing tool. I think there is actually a free trial, which is really, really useful. But you can, there's quite a lot of tools which you can use with it. Right, so what I did actually pre-stream is I've created a few little sprites. Where are they? Let's look at this one. It's just loading up now. I don't know what it is, but it's just and we can use those for our game. And I don't know if you've noticed the way that there's 3 zeros at the end of this. There's a genuinely good reason that there's 3 zeros. That means it's useful for later. So I was just checking I've got them all here, yeah. Which will make sense quite a lot later, but it means that you're essentially saving it so the numbers go up and it doesn't just add a number at the end. But I'll explain what that means later. So in order to make a game, I'd very strongly recommend using Unity. Unity's brilliant. Now, to save messing around, I've actually created the project straight off the bat. Because I was tempted to be like, oh, I could show you how to create a project straight, but may as well create it and then just load from it, because it takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and otherwise you just have 5 to 10 minutes of me just waffling. Actually, I've done quite a lot of waffling already. That is just a quick warning to everyone else. I definitely waffle. I sometimes take ages explaining a particular thing. So this is the one that we're going to go. But just so you know, to make actually a new project, it's simply a matter of doing new and selecting one of these. Now, 2D, that's, if you're looking to make a game for the first time, 2D just makes everything an awful lot easier. That means you've got one less dimension to worry about, which does make a big deal. So I originally used something called Game Maker Studio, which is absolutely brilliant, and that exclusively only makes games in 2D, whereas Unity, you can do 2D or 3D or 4D, I think, maybe. I don't know, no idea, maybe not. Anyway, this is the game. Right, I've done nothing to this game so far. And one thing that you got to get used to with Unity is you open it up and there's a bunch of stuff. It's like, what does any of this mean? Please help me. I don't know what any of this means. And a lot of it you don't really need to use. That is quite important. And I think you've got to understand that there's so many tiny little things that kind of you don't really need to worry about. So I'll tell you all the things that are going to be useful. So this particular window, this big window, is the scene. So this is where I'm going to drop things on and to actually make my game with. this hierarchy just shows everything that is in this scene. So at the moment we have the camera and nothing else, just the camera. So this here has everything that all the, I want to say features or properties, whatever, all the things that are on the camera. So we've got transform, which is a big deal, but I'll explain what that is later, don't worry about that. And the actual physical camera itself. And one thing which I kind of want to do before we get started, I'd rather have just a black background. Given that I'm going for the pixelated retro look, I think it just looks a bit cleaner when it's just a black background. Now, here we go. Right, this is this project slot here. By the way, when you load it up, it's not going to look like this. What you probably want to do is move everything to a place where you're most comfortable with. Because, yeah, these three windows, so that's the scene, the hierarchy, and the project, are the three sort of core things that you're going to be referring to a lot of the time. This little thing here is game, so when the actual game plays, you can have it on, it will actually just play, I was pointing at this screen, but it will play on this tiny little screen here. So at the moment there's absolutely nothing. So if we press play, that is all that's happening. There is nothing, there is just a black... okay, good. That's actually shown the point which I wanted to show as well. Let me just stop that. On here, there is a thing saying maximize on play, which you're going to need quite a lot. But I kind of switch it off and on dependent on what I'm actually looking for in the scene. So at the moment, I've just switched it. I switched it back off. So ideally, when you press play, it's not going to just take over the whole screen. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Right. And when I say press play, that's just at the top here. You can press Control P to play and then Control P to stop. But like that's more going ahead of myself. Right. So there's another thing that is important before we get started. I think the new Unity has actually done this. So what I'll show you what it is. We need to go File, Save. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's okay. Right. So normally, we've actually got this in here. These are the different scenes we've got. I better explain what a scene is. A scene is effectively kind of like a different level, I'm trying to work out another way of describing a different scene without just using the word scene. It's like, so if you're playing a game where there's like a menu or something and then it's like play game, if you think where there's the menu is going to be a separate scene to the actual physical game itself, and you want to try and you can in theory do an entire game on just one scene, which is what I have done before, and I would just essentially get rid of the menu, but still get rid of the menu and then create the game all in the same scene. But it is a lot cleaner, easier, and it will run smoother if you are switching between scenes, purely because you're going to be holding less information on each scene. So if you try to do everything in one scene, it would essentially be loading everything in the entire game on one scene as soon as you start up. Right, so we have our sample scene. I kind of want to change it to, let's call it main game. Sure. Right. Yeah, so now we're in the main game. Right. Now, at the moment, I've just told you various different things. As like, here's what you have to do. Another thing that you've kind of got to do, you have to create a folder, and I've actually created in the scenes, but it doesn't matter. The name of which this folder is going to be called Resources. Although I'll actually put that just in the main one here. The reason You can call the folders whatever you like, except for this one specifically has to be called resources, spelt this way. I'll explain why in several years from now. No, in a little while. So within resources, we then want to create another folder that we're going to call sprites. And I will see if I can find... right, yeah, and actually, in fact, I can probably just drop this whole thing in here. So if we want to actually get sprites from outside the from outside Unity and put them in, it is literally as simple as just dragging them on. So I'm going to go. In fact, I'll rename this to Nina sprites. There we go. And you're just going to physically just drag it on over there. There we go. Right, we are in. So we've actually got all these sprites. I've actually probably made more than I need here, but that's fair enough. So the object of this particular session is for me to actually teach you some really basic coding things. I just needed to get a few things set up. So we've got some sprites. We've got our scenes where we keep our main game, and that's all we need right now. And let me just get this back to the right thing. Right. So now the coding, the best bit. Let's rock. We're almost there. Okay. So we need to create our first object, and there's actually multiple ways we can do this, but I normally just press this plus button. All right. It's going to be a 2D object because we're going to make a 2D game. Sprites and square. All right. So plus 2D object, sprite, square. All right, and I've done it. Brilliant, wicked. Okay. So when we're looking at the main camera, it's got transform, camera, and audio listener, which are like components. Yeah, I suppose that. Yeah, you can call them components. They're three critical things that keep it working. Now with it here, we've got transform Sprite Renderer, and don't worry about that. Ignore that. That's part of the Sprite Renderer. So what we're going to do, we're going to just make life a little bit easier. So our first sprite. At the moment, it's a white square, but I'm about to change that. So resources. Let's go into. I kind of want to just get the main idle sprite. Yeah, this one here. This one's fine. So I'm selecting this here, and I'm going to drag this. And unfortunately, the actual little camera icon is in the way, but it's just over there. Now, before I forget, whenever you're making any game that has sprites, it kind of works. It's a lot cleaner when you actually have a sort of pixelated sprites. I'll show you what I'm just doing now. Opening all this up, it looks like I'm just a crazy man, but there is purpose. There is reason to what I'm doing. I'm going to hold Shift and literally just select all of these. He's gone off the record. What's he doing? Actually, hold on. Sorry, let's try again. So there, and I'm just holding. Yes, I've just clicked there. I'm holding Shift and I'm just clicking all of these. All right, now I just want to select the textures here, and we're actually essentially changing the sprites as to what's going on. So pixels haven't worked out. This is pixels per unit. I'm going to change it to 32, and we're going to change bilinear to point. So pixels to 32, bilinear. Filter mode to point, and then instead of normal quality, we're just going to do none, which doesn't make an awful lot of sense, but it actually makes everything just look a lot cleaner. And it really does go towards that retro sort of pixelated view by doing that. So I'm just going to apply that. And so this should, in theory, get a little bit bigger, and I'll explain exactly why. Yes, perfect. Right, brilliant. So, this particular sprite is 64 pixels by 64 pixels when you actually consider like the size of it. And by making it 32 pixels per unit, that means that this is essentially like, yeah, so if I had a 32 by 32 one, it would take up exactly one of these squares here. So given that I've got 64 by 64, that's why it's taking up 4 squares. Right, brilliant. And this sprite renderer, I didn't actually explain it too well, has got lots of different features going on. You can change multiple things, so it's like I can flip the x-axis, I can flip the y-axis, and more importantly here where it says sprite, you can change what sprite you want it to do. So I can have him blinking, it doesn't matter. So now, right, now we're going to do the coding bit. I realise I've been waffling, I've been going on for a long period of time. So before we actually create any code or any scripts, I'm going to create another folder that we're going to call scripts. And within that, I'm going to create, oh yeah, I probably should show that. Yeah, so yeah, here I'm going to go create a C# script. And we're going to call it Nina Animator. Yeah, Animator, that's fine. Script. I don't actually have to put the word script at the end of it, but I think it's a good habit to put a script at the end of it. So when you're trying to narrow it down a bit later on, it does make life a lot easier. Right, so we are going to let's open it up, and I'll try and I'll have a look. I'll show you what's in it, and I'll show you what everything means. So, in theory, when you open up a script, it should open it in what's called Visual Studio. So that's what's loading up now. Again, I could have had this loaded up before, but I thought, no, you're going to enjoy the loading process. Just try and work out. Oh yeah, let's get rid of that. Right. So yeah, it's still loading up now. And yeah, just while it's while it's doing all of this, we can actually change the name of Nina, and I'm gonna put GO at the end of this. That's short for game object. We could actually write game object. To be fair, that's probably better practice to write exactly what it is, because you don't really want to have too many you don't want to have like too many abbreviations, because it does get complicated like as you make the game bigger and you're trying to think, what does GO stand for? It could mean anything. So I will actually write game object. Right. And I wonder how this is loaded up. Oh no, I might need to just click it again. 1 sec. So double clicking. Yes. Right. Yes, this is the coding part. This is the best bit. This is like the sort of proper meat and potatoes of what we're trying to do here. Fantastic. Right, so we've now created that. Brilliant. And I'll explain what's going on here, because if when I first picked up code and I would see all of this, I'd be like, what is going on? This doesn't mean anything. Explain what's going on. Right, so first of all this bit here, don't delete it, but just don't worry about it. Leave it. It's important to get it working, but you don't need to worry. There is absolutely no panic or anything to try and understand what's going on here. You literally, it will make sense later, but for the time being, just completely ignore it. Just accept that it's there. It's what gets all this working, but don't worry. Public class animator. Yeah, this is just public class Nina. It's also called, even though it's a script, it's also classified as a class as well. And where it says mono behavior, this is what gives us access to all of the useful Unity bits of code. So, right, over here, we've got some green text, and we've got 2 forward slashes, and then it says start is called before the first frame update. So all of this green text here, where there's 2 forward slashes, you can actually put whatever you want. You know, yeah, whatever you want. It doesn't matter, right? These are comments. These are what are called comments. So, and so, yeah, so, and the way you do that is literally just 2 forward slashes, and this is great. Yeah, these are just useful. It doesn't actually achieve anything. Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you, Kev. Oh, rock and roll. I just received a text at the same time, and obviously I've got the most amazing technology of all time ever, but part of me thinks that that might have been you, and like it's going to be quite difficult to access that because I've left it in the back room. No, my phone is the actual thing that is making the camera at this precise moment. I'm sure I'm keep it professional, Pete. Anyway, so you're going to need comments to get everything, like to actually map everything out. It does help you organise everything. Although, so yeah, forward slash and then write whatever you like. Another very useful thing to know as well is, as well as doing 2 forward slashes, because that means for the rest of this line, it's just more. It's more comments. If you do /*, right, and then write this is a comment, right, and then /forward/, then it just means this, just what is within here is actually commented out. And that can go over multiple lines as well. Nah, it's fine. It's fine. Right. Anyway, that's good. Right. Let's have a look. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you it is incredibly useful when you're actually trying to put that. So yes, all I've done so far is explain how to do something that does nothing with the comments. But we can get rid of these comments for the time being. So the first actual useful bit of code is what is going to be called debug.log. So it's debug.log. All right. Open brackets. Now, if you do a speech marks, double speech marks, and then you can write stuff in here. I'm going to stick with the traditional, the thing that everyone has to do. It's like the obligatory hello world. Hello world. All right. And then a semicolon. So I'll quickly explain what I'm doing here. So debug.log means this is actually useful for when you're making your game. So you can kind of like write certain things, like if ever you're not sure if you've reached a certain bit of code or you want to work something out, what will happen, I'll show you, is so so now I'm going to press Control S to save and go back to my Unity project. Brilliant. It's just updating. So what we've got here, I was saying before, we've got transform Sprite Renderer. Now it's just as simple as, I'm just going to drag this code on here. And all we've got, the only bit of code that I've got is this debug .log, and it's going to say hello world. And I'll show you what that means when we actually go to press play. There we are. Right, we'll have, so here's the fourth window that's really useful, is the console. And see over here it says hello world. That's basically it following the instructions from here to write down hello world. And you can have whatever you want there. So that's that's the first thing. I don't know what that little load symbol means, but we'll cross that bridge. Right, anyway, stopping now. So like if you haven't, so the first, so like it's probably worth actually playing around with debug log, because you can put any bit of information that you like in it. So So, okay, that's brilliant. Wicked. Okay, so we can get rid of that. What what we need to do now, I need to explain what variables are. Right, let's rock. So variables are kind of everything. They're everything that actually puts that you need for it, for like a script. So you could have, for example, lives or name, and I'll explain. So, and I know you're thinking, what's this? What does this mean? So int refers to an integer. So what I've done, I have what's called introducing a variable that's called that is an int, right? That is the name of the variable is called lives. So if I have, say, for example, we're just working with the start here, but lives equals 5, and then we go debug dot log open brackets lives semicolon. Oh yeah, sorry, another massive thing which is probably pretty critical as well. I'm putting semicolons at the end of everything. That is part of C#. That's how it sort of recognises what you're actually like, that you have finished whatever coding on that particular thing. So I kind of like, once you've actually used C# for a while, you'll notice you'll just kind of, without realising, you'll just put semicolons. And it's happened a few times when I've just been typing something out that's nothing coding related, and I finally finished and I've just put a semicolon at the end, being like, that doesn't mean anything. That's just this is a normal Word document. Why are you putting semicolons, instead of a full stop? It's effectively kind of like a full stop. It's saying do all of this. So what I've done here is I have set lives to 5, and by having lives equals 5, and then I have done a debug.log of lives. So we're going to save this, Control S, go back in. I know, slow progress. I want to know how to make games, Pete. I've just learned how to write something rubbish here. So now we can clear that. I'll make this a little bit bigger, and then press play. So in an ideal world, we will have 5. Yes, so that's just, there we go. Brilliant, sorted. Right, and there's also another word that needs to go in front of it, which is either public, so I'll get rid of that for the time being, or private. I don't know, health, it doesn't matter. So the difference between the two is public means that you can access it from other scripts. Private means you could only access it from this particular script. So, and another useful thing to know is I'm going to save this, right, and go back to the project. So it's just updating now. And if you look, when we go on to this project, so we're looking at, this particular game object, which is the Nina game object. Here's where the script is, and you can actually see lives there, but you can't see health because health is made private. So on this script, we have at the moment a lives thing and a health, but you can't see the health, which is actually really useful. And if you're starting up, you may as well make everything public. It's taken me years to try and work out why you'd ever have anything private, because if you have it public, it is just like, it's just so much clearer and easier. I mean, I can tell you why, because when you have a massive bunch of public stuff, it starts getting quite confusing. That's kind of why, and there's more to it than that. But when you're starting up, you may as well make all of your things public. So let's go make it public as well. So variables. So this particular lives here, this is a variable, and so far we've learned integers. I might need to just quickly just pause the stream one sec. Where are we? Oh yeah, we can actually just temporarily video capture, display capture. That's it. Right. Okay. Sorry, I'm still here. Don't worry. Everything's good. There we go. And we're back. Yes, magic. Right, fantastic. Right, yeah. So we've got we've got the lives variable. So all of these things here that all of these ones that we're introducing, they're all called variables. Now they can be kind of anything. So I was showing earlier as well. We've got public string, which let's just say name for the argument's sake. Well, I'll show you what it is. A string is essentially a string of letters to make a sentence or a word. So here we've got, we can call her Nina. That's fine. Brilliant. And there's so many different things. So the important ones are, I would say, we've got int, which is an integer, string, which is a name, and another one which is called float, which is, let's just think, I don't know, I can't think of actually, you know when you think, actually, why don't we change the health to a float. So a float is very similar to an integer, except for it's allowed to have decimals. So so why don't we do something absolutely crazy and rocking. Right, so what we've done, we've set lives to 5, and then we've printed it out on the screen, or we've done the debug log so it creates it. We can set health to, just so I can actually use the argument, equals, I don't know, say 5.5. Now I'm going to do something which, and we put F as well. So whenever we're setting any floats, for whatever reason, which confuses me even to this day, it does make sense, we're putting F at the end of it. So debug log health, and if we have name, and we'll set it to Nina, there we go, and debug.log, open brackets, and yeah, it's more just, yeah, like, I'm trying to emphasize how useful this debug log is. It really is useful. So we've put everything in, and I just want to just check that it's all working all right, because we're going to do something a little bit more complicated in a sec, and I just wanted to give you a basis of like how sort of programming works. One thing, again, I didn't really explain, but where it says start, this is all the code that's going to happen as soon as this as soon as this object is created, it will start and it will do this straight away. So here we go. So hopefully it will have like, there we go. Yeah, so there we go. We've got the lives there, 5.5 and Nina. So this is, yeah, debug log, and I really do want to emphasize how useful that is for everything. So we have start. Now there is another thing that is called awake, which is kind of the same as start, except for it happens even before the start. So void awake. There we go. Oh, it's there. Oh, it's done that all for me. So if I were to put this up here, then essentially it's going to do everything in here, then everything in the awake section, and then everything in the start. And the reason that becomes very, very useful later, and it's good to know that. So yeah, right, brilliant. You know, earlier I was showing about public, trying to work out what public and private is. The advantage of using like, yeah, it works the same for all of these things as well. These are essentially, these are going to be called functions, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Actually realised trying to explain the entire of coding from the ground up is quite difficult. Never mind. So yeah, like void. So awake. This is a private function because it's only this that's ever going to have to use it. And I can actually just if you don't actually put private at the front, or if you don't put either public or private, it will default to private. But it actually, for clarity's sake, let's do that for all of these as well. So only this script can access these things. And what we'll do as well, just confirm, in fact, just to make everything, just so I haven't like lost the plot. It doesn't matter where you actually put everything in the actual in this script. You just want to make like you always know awake will come before start. Brilliant. Right. So what I'm planning to do today is sorry, my phone's going off. I do apologise. But yeah, what I'm planning to do today is just get this little Nina character to animate. You know, because I've got a few little animations available, and I kind of want to just get it to just animate so we don't know. Oh, by the way, sorry, I didn't explain at any point. I'm looking to just make a sort of quite a standard basic endless runner, and see how it goes. Right, here we are. Okay, so we know int, float, and string. So int is a integer, float is a number that can be a decimal, so like 4.8 or whatever, and string is a collection of letters put together to make a sentence or a name or a word of some sort. Okay, now this is where it gets a little bit complicated, but I'll explain everything as I do it. We're going to have a public Sprite Renderer. There is, and we'll have Nina, and we call it Nina Sprite Renderer. Okay. So in an ideal world, so we've made that public. Going back to this. Right, here we go. So yeah, these are the things, and here you can see this is what's the sprite renderer, and this is referring to this thing over here. Now I'll show you the most basic way, and this is quite important. So we actually can drag this. See where we've got this? We're actually holding it and putting it over to there. All right. So now this script has got access to the sprite renderer, and because that's what we can use to animate all the sprites with. Right, fantastic. So we can actually get rid of all this. I just wanted to kind of just let you know the importance of debug. So for any of this, for us to be able to actually animate, we need to also get access to our sprites. So I'm going to put public, say, public sprite, walking sprites. Actually, no, I'll do idle sprite first. And remember, it seems to be a semicolon after almost everything. Okay, brilliant. So we've got our idle sprite. Okay. Right. So let's head back. Let's see what we've actually got over here. Right, so we've got another thing here, which is sprite, and what we can do, we can put a sprite in it, and we kind of want to get our idle sprite, don't we? And I probably should have actually ordered this slightly better. We'll drag it from here. There we go. So resources, sprites, idle. And now one thing which you're probably looking at, you're thinking, well, there's two idle sprites and there's only one slot. So what am I going to do? I can put one on, that's fine, but how am I going to get the other one on? This is where I'm going to introduce another quite complicated subject as quickly as I possibly can. Why? You're not in a rush. Just relax. Just chill. Everything's good. So, right. So you've got the basis of variables, and now I'm going to explain what an array is. An array is a bunch of whatever it is, a bunch of variables in one go. So here we go. I'm going to go public sprite, and I'm actually going to use the square brackets for this. The square brackets look like this. Fantastic. And this allows you to put in a bunch of sprites in one thing. So here we go. We got the idle sprites, and I'm actually going to change that to S as well, so we know it's idle sprites, because I think there's kind of 2 idle sprites in there. Right, fantastic. So now I'm going to save that and go back. So it will look slightly different, or I hope it looks different. Big error message. No, we're fine. Okay, so idle sprites at the moment. So this is an array, and currently in this array there is 0, but we can just change that to 2. All right, and then open up, and we've got 2 empty sprites, and we're going to just put in our idle sprites. There we go. Now, right, let me just quickly save this before I forget. So at the moment we've just got idle sprites, and we've got access to this. So what we can do, just to check that everything's working, that we've got access to everything. I am going to go Nina Sprite Renderer. So this is referring to this, right? And we want to change its sprite dot sprite, and then equals. And whenever you think equals, it's actually technically called the assignment operator. Just to confuse things, I just see it as equals. We want to make that sprite equal something, so we want to make it equal to idle sprites, but that's going to give you an error message. The reason being is because we want to actually set it to a particular sprite, and whereas we can't, this is basically saying, oh, what sprite do you want? I want it to be all of these. So at the moment we're just going to set it to the first one in the list, which is to add a whole layer of confusion again, it's number 0. So whenever you make an array of like sprites together, let's just say I made, or it doesn't, let's say an array of anything, say an array of numbers or whatever. Let's just say I made, say, an array of 20 integers. So, say the first one could be 10, the second one could be 15, it doesn't matter. For me to actually refer to each individual one, you actually start at 0. So if I had an array of, say, 5 numbers or 5 integers, I'd have to go, it's basically counts as 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if I was to do number 2, that would give me an error message, because that would essentially, or number 5 or whatever, it would create an error message, because we've only got 2 in that slot. And so it'd just be 0 and 1. And I think that actually, this should work straight off the bat. Again, I know you're thinking, you said you were going to animate it. At the moment, you just seem to be swapping the renderer for just swapping one render for another one. But don't worry, that's where it gets exciting. That's where it gets cool. So let's have a look. Right. Yeah. So ideally, let's have a look. What does this one actually look like? So this is, it's this sprite here. So if everything's working, the first thing that will happen as soon as it starts, it will just swap this animation for the one of the idle animations. So let's just check it works. I probably should have this a little bit bigger to actually check. But yeah, so now we've swapped it to that, which is great. But that's not animating, that's just assigning it from one to another. Right. But I'll explain all that, don't worry. Right, so where are we going from here? So I'll quickly explain. So at the moment, you know, these are three sort of almost special functions because start. Yeah, actually, I'll move this back up here. Just mainly my OCD. So it does awake, then start, and then with update, it is literally going to do whatever is in this whatever like code you want in update. It is going to do every single frame, which is like dependent on how fast your computer is. It can do it like 100 times a second or 30 times a second. And what I can actually do is actually test that. So if we just have a debug.log and have something like you are going to see this message many times. All right, semicolon at the end. Wrong button. There we go. So we've saved it. Oh yeah, sorry. One thing which I do as well, when you're in Visual Studios, you press Control S. I just kind of got into that sort of muscle memory of just pressing it before I swap back. So we're now back in here, and we'll press play. So ideally the eyes will become open because it's on the idle sprite. There we go. And this actual particular thing update, it is just giving me this message many times because it's updating every frame. So I'm pressing clear and it's just creating loads and loads and loads, and you can see there that's the number of times it's saying this. That's just mainly just to get you used to the importance of what the update does. Okay, that's just so we'll need that. We'll need to use that in a sec. Okay. So these are like three very special functions because they're actually done automatically at a certain time. But you can create your own function. And the purpose of doing that is when you have a bunch of code that you want to put in, and you don't want to have to just copy and paste this same bit of code, right? So you can actually just have everything done in a function. So what I'm actually going to do, this is going to be a little bit complicated. I'm going to have private void. Oh yeah, also that word void, for the time being, don't worry about it, right? Just know that you're creating a function. It does have meaning, obviously, later. It's not as though some sadist at the beginning was just like, oh, you know what? Whenever anyone's creating a function, you just have to have the word void. It does mean something, and but which we'll explain in a little bit. We'll call this one setup. Right. Oh yeah. And there's like I say, so a function, it will have private void, and it can have something else there, but I'll explain later. Then the name. This is the name of the function. All right. And then you'll have, these are called parentheses brackets. All right. And then you'll have what are called curly brackets. And you'll probably, if you look at the keyboard, you'll be like, okay, I see where they all are. And so whatever we have here, so let's just say I had again, going back to this debug, because you really will find this useful. Hey, this is the setup function that's been activated. All right. What we're essentially doing is whenever we run this bit of code, it will, whenever we put a function. So let's just say in start we have setup. All right. It's going to just automatically read from this code here. Right. So let's just have a little play. Let's see if that works. I think I'm actually going quite slow. I do apologise. I realise trying to explain everything from the ground up is actually surprisingly difficult. Right, so I just want to check I have... Yeah, so I've just got rid of the one from the update. So, yeah, so I'm going to just press play, and what's happening is... Just check, it says, hey, this is the setup function that's been activated. Right, so... Obviously, you're going to probably have more stuff in a function than just one line of code, but it is useful. So I can put this multiple times. I can put like setup. I can do it loads of times, and it will do that same bit of code over and over. Right, and so now, now the problem with functions overall is what it does everything almost instantaneously, which is really useful. But if you're trying to do an animation, you kind of want there to be a frame rate. So you want it to be like every, say, quarter of a second it moves to the next frame. There's actually, apparently there's multiple ways of doing that, but I'll tell you what I would consider the best way. And it's something which is similar to a function. I did all this so I could explain what a function is. But I'll explain something similar to a function that's called a enumerator. I know, why do they give it such rubbish names? Private enumerator. Let's go crazy. We'll have it walk routine. Okay. Now I'll explain what all this is. Yield, return null. Okay, don't worry, this will make sense in a sec. And public void walk. Okay. He's just typing stuff and not explaining it. Don't worry, it'll make sense. So, I've just created a setup. We've just got another standard function that's called walk, and what this function is doing is it's going to start the walk routine, which at the moment does nothing. But the advantage, the thing which is really nice about these enumerators or coroutines. They're called coroutines, but coroutines is you can do multiple things like over a period of time. So what I'll try and explain this to you. So we're going to, within here, float, within the actual routine itself, float time equals 0. Okay, what I've done here is, just like here, I've created a variable, but when you create a variable within a function, it just goes away right at the end of it. So this time, we won't have this. It won't be. We won't have time here because it's only created for this particular routine. So I mean, yeah, you can have it in any. You can have it in a function or an enumerator, but yeah, this is actually. I realised this is actually a bit more complicated. I was like, don't worry, it'll make loads of sense. So yeah, you can create it in a function, but it will only exist until this has been this like coroutine or function, whatever, has finished. And then it will just delete itself from history and it'll never exist ever again. So if I was to have, say, float or say int Jeff equals 4, debug.log Jeff. All right, this integer here, it will survive long enough to do that, but then as soon as this function, all the stuff has been done in here, you will never, Jeff will never see the light of day. Right, so what I'm doing in here, in this walk routine, first of all, we've got a float, which is a number that can just be a decimal. Time equals 0. And then we're going to have, in fact, let's go create some more sprites. Public sprite walk. In fact, Damn, I probably should have changed it to run. Walk sprites is fine. Okay. Here we go. And so what we actually want to do in this routine is wait a period of time, maybe quarter of a second, to go to the next frame. Yeah, sorry, let me just try and think this through. So, first of all, before we do any of this, let's actually get these walk sprites set up. There we go. So we've got walk sprites. Now, I think there's actually a little trick you can do. I've actually called them run sprites, doesn't matter. So, oh yeah. So we actually, we just want to drag them all on. There is like a faster way of doing this, but I want to show the sort of the more simplified version. Right. Oh yeah, that was it. Another really important variable is what's called a boolean. So public bool busy. So a boolean is literally, it can either be true or false and nothing else. And I'll show you what that looks like. Here we go. And busy. So the only bit of data, this takes up the smallest amount of data ever, because it is literally either true 1 or false 0. Right. And so now we've created there. So as part of the walk routine, we're going to have busy equals true. Float time equals 0. Okay. Now, I'm going to write this down, then explain it in a little bit. Sprites.length. Okay, where's it going? So, this is what's called a for loop. Now, the syntax is really confusing, and it took me a while to get my head around, but you need 3 different things in here. So first of all, you need to set an integer, and it makes sense to begin with, just an int equals 0, I less than the walk sprites.length, and then I++. So what that's actually doing is it's cycling through. So we can actually, I can even show you what that's actually doing. Debug.log open brackets I. It's cycling through. It's going from 0 to whatever the walk sprites.length is. So it basically repeat this function over and over a certain number of times. So at the moment we've got the walk sprite's length is 6. Okay, so let me go. I don't think I saved it. No, that's fine. And you know what? I was trying to prove a point earlier, and I'm kind of regretting it. Okay, and straight off the bat with walking, we're going to use the walk. Just walk. That's fine. Yep. It's not going to be animating quite yet, but we're getting there. So with debug log, so in an ideal world, we're going to just clear this over here, and it should just go from 0 up to 5 for the length. So yeah, that's right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6. Yeah, that's good. Okay, but what if instead of instead of just put like logging a number, we actually make this Nina sprite renderer dot sprite equal walk sprites I. Okay, so what? So I showed you the 6 ones, the 6 walk sprite. The 6 walk sprites, which are these ones here, and it's going to cycle through them. However, at this precise moment, it's going to just go through it instantly. So what we need to do is we want to wait a certain period of time. So we're going to have another integer, which we're going to call float time frame speed. Yeah, time between each frame. Okay. I realise I'm actually introducing quite a lot of complicated stuff in one go, but no, it makes sense. Right. So, I'm going to have time equals 0 while time is less than time between each frame. Oh yeah. Oh, also yeah. So how long should we have between each frame? Let's just say 0.2. So that's about 1/5 of a second between each frame. Time now equals time plus time dot delta time. Okay. So I'll explain what all this means. So while this is, so when we've got a while thing, it's called a while loop. It's basically going to do all of this information over and over and over until this is no longer the case. So at the moment we've got time is 0 and and the time between each frame is 0.2. So it will continue to do this until time has somehow magically gone up to or gone above 0.2. So what we've done here is we've got time equals time plus time dot delta. I've said the word time far too many times. Right. And what this little niblet here does is it tells you how much time has passed since the last frame. And it'll normally be something really tiny, like 0.01 or something. So we're essentially waiting. It's basically allowing it to wait for each frame. So let's actually see how this sort of looks at the moment. It's going to be incredibly underwhelming when it does actually, even if it does work. But let's have a look. Right. So. Ah, yeah, right. Okay, so it did actually animate, but it just did one cycle of it. I'll just quickly show you again, just to check that I wasn't making it up. Yeah. And we kind of want that to repeat, though, don't we? So, busy equals true. So at the moment, well, actually, yeah. So while so yeah, we've set busy to true. So while it is busy, it is going to continuously cycle through this bit of through this animation. So I think that should be fine. There we go. There we go. Yay! Right. See if I can get that a little bit bigger so we can kind of appreciate it slightly more. No, it doesn't actually get any bigger. So let's have a look at this one. So this is essentially the walk animation that I'm looking to use. But that's not how games work. You don't just set code at the beginning and hope it and just leave it to it. So why don't we make it so that if we press a button, it starts walking, and then another button to stop walking. So we can go, here we are. So I'm going to use comments here to try and explain what I'm doing. So if you press space, no, let's just say, yeah, if you press the space bar, start walking, and if you press the S key, stop walking. Okay. So how are we going to do that? So whenever you're trying to do any like make it so that when you press a button something happens, there's some code which is where you have if input dot get key down open brackets key code dot space, yeah. All right. So when we're actually starting this frame, it's going to be going over and over this, and it's going to be constantly checking to see if you've pressed the space button. So if you have, then, and we're also going to check if busy is equal to false, because yeah, I want to make sure that we're not just going to kind of do this walk routine over and over again. If busy is equal to false, then we can walk, and then if brackets input dot get key down key code dot oh, we decided S, didn't we? Yeah. In fact, let's go change that just to make it a bit clearer. So, right, let me try and explain what I'm doing here. So, update, it's going to be checking this every single frame. And quite often, and these if, that's basically saying, is a certain thing happening? So, have you pressed the space button? Oh, no, you haven't, don't worry, we're just going to completely ignore it. Have you pressed the S button? No, don't worry, you haven't. But if you happen to press space, then it will first of all check to see that busy is false, which it should be when it starts. And then if it is busy, then it will start doing all of this routine. So let's see if it works. All right. have a look. Oh yeah, of course, it's actually doing it straight away. So let me just quickly change something. And actually, another useful thing that you can do, you can press / whenever you want to kind of get rid of a bit of code, but you don't necessarily want to delete it. You just want to be like, okay, let's see how it works without this here. So that's fine. So it's blank at the moment. So press space. Oh, hold on. Make sure we're actually clicking on the game. So press space. And then if I press S, it's going to stop. Keep going and then stop. Right, cool. Now, the reason... So where I've got... so there's this little double equals... that you're only ever going to use when they're like conditions. So it's like if this certain thing, this whole statement is true. So if busy happens to equal false, then we will do that. So it will only actually perform this if busy is false. So I'll give you an example. So at the moment we're pressing play. There we go. So if you look, this is the little boolean. So now, if I press space now, yeah, nothing happens. Whereas that's because it's already busy. Whereas I'm just clicking that off, and I'll try again, and it should work. That's fine. And then S to stop. There we go. And the reason he's actually doing a little bit of walking between it at the end is because it's checking for busy, but like while it's still in this bit, it's still got to do the rest of what's here before it actually stops. There are ways of just of making it stop instantly. So we can. So I've shown you the way, the kind of like what I would consider the quite inefficient way of getting all of these like sprites into into here, but there's a much easier way. I just wanted to show it because this kind of visualize it makes it a lot easier to sort of physically see. So what we can actually do is let's have a look. Yeah, it's still, these can still be public, that's fine. So we'll have, say, idle sprites, walk sprites, and say jump sprites. There we go. And here's where it gets, this is where we're going to do a few kind of fancy-ish things. So, idle sprites equals okay. Right, what are we doing here? Remember, like, ages ago, it seems like an eternity now, when I was saying you've got to create a folder that says resources, and it's spelled exactly that way. We're now finding out exactly why. Because we don't actually have to we don't have to drag all of these like all of these things on. We can actually set these all to 0. Alright. And we can actually get the computer to do it for us. And this is the code that you use to load it. And what we're here... Now this is the... I think it's the path, whatever it is. So what we're going to do is... So these are the idle sprites. Alright, I'm going to right mouse button. Alright. Copy path. and just literally just paste this in here, and we just delete where it says assets resources. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to do the same for walk sprites and jump sprites. You know what, just for the sake, I'm just going to change this to walk, just to make everything look a little bit clearer. Right, so now copy path. So what we're doing, we're essentially getting the path to this folder, and it's basically saying all these walk sprites, they're going to actually just be all of these ones here. So V, and like I say, you'll get used to it, but you just get rid of where it says assets and resources. It's fine. And jump sprites. In fact, I could probably just no. Let's say I'll copy it. I'll copy and paste. So, path. I was thinking, oh, I could try and be lazy and try and guess what it is, but let's not take any chances. Right, here we are. Okay. So, what if we actually get rid of this? Because this is a bit of a rubbish thing to do. Yeah. So walk. Yeah. I realised, yeah, so that's fine. So if you press space, then it starts walking. Right, sweet. Okay. And what I kind of want to do, we'll still slow down a little bit. So we're going to basically have we're going to copy. I'm basically copying all of this, and we're going to do one for jumping as well. Let's change that to jump routine. So we've basically got the same, except for instead of doing that, we can do the jump sprites. Here we go. And I want to kind of quickly change one other quick thing. Right, so I haven't actually spoken for a while. So all I've done there is just make sure that as soon as it's no longer busy, it cuts out. So it doesn't do the rest of the animation. It just cuts out straight away. If busy. Yeah, there we go. So let's just let's have it arrow, right arrow. So yeah, the right arrow makes it walk, makes them walk, and let's get rid of that. done. Right. Busy equals false. Okay. Now I want to just check this works, and then I'll explain everything that's going on. Oh, it was actually mid-plane before, so. There we go. Right, so ideally we've set it so that if we press right, he starts walking. Oh, I think I see where this is going wrong. One sec. Alright, cool. Okay. So, that's the walking, that's the jumping animation. Oh, I see, yeah, it's because we haven't cancelled that out. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Damn, how did I do this before? Right, anyway, so we now know how to get a sort of slightly glitchy jump. I just want to check the jump does actually work when you don't press it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And obviously that looks a little bit slow, so we can actually change the frame rate. We can change it to... but you know what? Let's get rid of all this busy nonsense. And just have it right at the end, busy equals false. That'll probably, yeah, I've realised I've tried to do a few too many steps in one go. Alright, so let's have a look. Alright, let's rock. So, in an ideal world, we've got the run animation and then jump animation. So there's the run, and there's the jump. Now, I've realised I actually, just before I put this together, I didn't actually realise how many different things you need to actually sort of pick up. So this has been a pretty heavy session straight off the bat. And I can only apologise for that. I didn't realise, like, there's so many things which I've just kind of got used to sort of learning. And I was like, oh yeah, what if people are trying to learn code from the beginning? So I'm going to try and explain things a little bit more thoroughly during my next session. Anyway, I'm going to call it there for the time being. If you're interested in supporting my stream, normally I'll say like, you can follow, whatever, follow, subscribe, whatever the thing is. No, don't worry about that. Just have a little look at this game. It's on the App Store and the Google Play Store. Yeah, just download it. Tell me what you think.
Oh.
Cool. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me this long. All the best, and next time I'll try and actually try and be a little bit more thorough with some of the explanations. Anyway, thank you very much. I have no idea how to end the stream. There it is. All right, I'll see you.